Hello, everybody. So we're going to start our um, lessons in Chapter 9 with relating tenths, and decimals. So in other words, we're going to be relating fractions and decimals. All right, so how can we record tenths as fractions and as decimals? All right, so let's look at the unlock the problem. Ty is reading a book about metamorphic rocks. Just in case we don't know what that means. Morph comes from the Greek. It means to change in shape. So rocks that change shapes. And he has read 7/10 of the book. What decimal describes the part of the book Ty has read? Okay, what decimal describes the part of the book he has read? He's read 7/10. So to write that as a decimal is a number with one or more digits to the right of the decimal point. Think of it as money values, $5.25. The decimal point is the number, is the symbol we put in between the 5 and the 2 in 525. The 0.25, that would be the decimal portion of the number. So we can write tenths and hundredths as fractions or as decimals. So one way, we can use a model and a place value chart. So 7/10, we know that basically means we have 7 sections shaded out of 10 parts. So go ahead and shade in 7. Okay. So this isn't anything new. We know how to make a model of 7/10. Now, but as a decimal, that might be new to us. Okay, so we've been dealing with whole numbers all the way up to this point, right? Now, we're going to introduce the idea of a decimal point and digits to the right of that decimal point. So the digits to the right of a decimal point are less than one whole. So 7/10. What place value is the 7 in? It's in the 10th place. So we just write 0.7. So we'd write it as 0.7, and we'd write it as 7/10. If we were reading it in word form, 7/10. This one over here, we've already practiced that one, and we know it. We write that fraction as 7/10. So these two values are equivalent. Okay, another way we could figure out the decimal values is to use a number line with decimals that are equivalent to the fractions. So locate 7/10 on the number line. Okay, so we know that on the number line we have 0 to the left and we have 1 to the right. So all the fraction values are less than 1 whole except for 10/10. 10/10 equals 1 whole. 0/10 is 0. There's no value there. So 1/10 we would write as 0.1. 2/10 we would write as 2/10. So what do you think 3/10 is? It's 0.3. So the 0 represents that there is no whole number here. All we have is 3 out of 10 parts, so 3/10. 4/10 would be written as 0.4. 5/10, 0.5. 6/10, 0.6. 7/10, 0.7. 8/10, 0.8. And 9/10, 0.9. And it said locate 7/10. Okay, so 0/10, 0.7 means the same amount as 7/10. So as a decimal, Ty has read 0.7, which is read as 7/10. How can you write 0.1 as a fraction. So 0.1 means 1/10. So how do we write 1/10 as a fraction? Well, 1 over 10 parts. The digit 1 is in the 10th place. So 1/10 or 0.1. All right, 9.1, page 360. Tara rode her bicycle 1 6/10 miles. What decimal describes how far she rode her bicycle? You've already written a fraction as a decimal. You can also write a mixed number as a decimal. So we're going to shade our model to represent the way we currently are familiar with modeling fractions. And 1 6/10, that means you have one section that has 10 out of 10 parts, and something that we call 10 out of 10 would be equal to 1, right? And then we have 6/10 of another part. Okay. So how do we write 1 6/10? Well, the 1 is a whole number, so it goes to the left of the decimal point. All whole numbers go to the left of the decimal point. 6/10. What place value is 6/10 in? It's in the 10th place. That's why we say 6/10. All right, so right. So 1 6/10. And as a decimal, the decimal can, in this case, can be read as and 1 6/10. Okay, let's use the mathematical terms for how we read these numbers. Don't say 1.6. Read it as 1 6/10. It would be the same thing as if you had this. You don't say 1 6 over 10. You say 1 6/10. So the same thing here. Okay, so 1, it's read as 1 6/10. Use a number line. Okay, so now here we notice that our number line is at 1 because we have a value that's greater than 1. So we don't need to start at 0. So 1 ending at 2, because 1 6/10, I know the 6/10 part is less than 1 whole. So I don't have 2. All right. Now the 10th part, they're going to be exactly the same. So no matter what, in between two whole numbers, there's going to be 10/10. All right. So 1 1/10, we would say 1.1. 1 2/10 would be 1.2. And we say 1 1/10, 1 2/10. Okay. I'm just right. I am saying 1 point so that as far as writing the value. If I'm reading, sorry, as far as for writing in the numbers on the number line, if I was reading that as a value, I'd want to say 1 2/10. I don't want to say 1.2. Okay, so 1 3/10. What would come after 1 3/10? 1 4/10. 1 5/10. 1 6/10. 1 7/10. 1 8/10. 1 9/10. And you notice that when we get to 2, there are no longer any additional pieces. So we have 2 wholes with nothing left over. So blank names the same amount as 1 6/10. 1.6. 6. So Tara rode her bicycle 1 6/10 miles. All right, write 1 as a fraction and as a decimal. All right, so 1, we know that the numerator and the denominator are exactly the same. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 pieces. So the fraction would be 10/10. Or we could also say 1 over 1. Okay, because 10 is a factor of both tens, right? Is always a common factor of the tens. Now write 1 as a whole, as 1 whole and 0/10. So we have 1 in the ones place to represent the 1 whole, and we have 0/10. So 1.0. All right, number 1, write 5/10 as a fraction and as a decimal. So shade in 5 sections. 5. Oops. I shaded in too many, guys. All right. 5/10. I'm going to write 5/10 here. Point that out to myself. So 5/10. 5 is in the 10th place. I have 0 whole numbers. And I don't have any hundreds either. So as a fraction, I'd write 5 over 10. As a decimal, it would be 0.5, which is read as 5/10. All right, write the fraction or mixed number and the decimal shown. So we have 10/10, 20/10, 22/10. And so we want to say 2 and 2/10. 2 and 2/10. How do we get the 2? Well, because there's 2 complete squares. Where did we get the 2/10 from? Because there was 2 additional pieces out of 10 parts. So 2 and 2/10. How do we write that as a decimal? Well, we can always use a place value chart. Okay, so you might want to make one up for yourself to use. And so our columns are the decimal point. To the right of the decimal point, we have tenths and hundredths. And remember, anything to the right of the decimal point is less than 1 whole. And then we would have 1, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000, so on, right? To the left of the decimal point, those would represent whole numbers. So in this problem, we have 2 and 2/10. Okay, so the fraction value tells you what place value the decimal is in. So it's 2 and 2/10. So 2.2, written as 2 and read as 2 and 2/10. All right, so here I see I see a location here on the number line that's in between 5/10 and 1 whole. So 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10. So this is at 8/10 as a fraction, and its equivalent decimal is 0.8, which is 8/10. Number 4, write the fraction or mixed number and the decimal shown. All right, so I only have this one square. It's not complete, so my value has to be less than 1. So I have 4 out of 10 parts. So 4/10 would be written as 0.4 and is read as 4/10. All right, in this one, They stop the number line at 1 and 5/10. So, and this one is 1 and 0/10. So I know that each line is a tenth. 1 and 1/10, 1 and 2/10, 1 and 3/10, 1 and 4/10. Okay, so 1 and 1/10. I said 1 as a whole number, and there was also a 1 in the tenth place, so 1.1. So 1.1 is our decimal, and as a fraction, it was 1 and 1/10. Okay, I have one whole and 9/10 of the other one, so 1 and 9/10. I'm just going to write it in as I said it. I said 1 and the decimal point can be read as 1. 1 and 9/10, 1.9. Number 7. Okay, here we start at 3 on our number line and stop at 4. Well, if this is 0/10 and this is 0/10, that must mean each line is worth 1/10. So we can write in the fraction values first. We'd write 3 and 1/10, 3 and 2/10, 3 and 3/10, 3 and 4/10, 3 and 6/10, 3 and 7/10, 3 and 8/10, 3 and 9/10, and then when you get to 3 and 10/10, that's an extra whole, so we call that 4. It would be 3 plus 1. So how do we write 3 and 1/10 as a decimal? So again, listen to how you're saying the number. 3 and 1/10. 3 and 2/10. Okay, we are on 3 and 4/10 on our number line. So 3 wholes and 4/10. So 3.4. All right, number 8. 5 and 9/10. So let's just write it the way we say it. 5 and 9/10. Write the fraction or mixed number as a decimal. Okay, so it's already written as a mixed number. So we're going to just write the equivalent decimal value, 5 and 9/10. 1/10. So I say, if I have my number line, 1/10. I didn't say any wholes. I didn't say 1 and 1/10. So it's 0 and 1/10. So 1/10, I would just write as 0.1, but is read as 1/10. 7/10. Again, I didn't say 7 and 7/10 or 5 and 7/10. So there are no whole numbers. And the 7 is in the 10th place. Okay. 8 and 9/10. Okay, so this time I did say a whole number. 8 is the whole number in the ones place, and 9/10. Well, 9/10 on this one was just written 5.9. So 8 and 9/10 would be written 8.9. 6/10. So if we have 6/10, the 6 is in the 10th place, so 0.6. 6 and 3/10. 6.3. 5/10. I didn't say any whole numbers, so the 5 is in the 10th place. 0.5. And 9 and 7/10. So this one has a whole number, 9 ones, and 7 is in the tens place, 9.7. Okay. All right, so let's go to 362. All right. What part of the rocks, use the table for 16 through 19. So before we get started, let's make sure we understand the table. So these are rocks that belong to Ramon. So he has a rock collection, and he has a bunch of different rocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 types of rocks. And this is the type of rocks they are: igneous, sedimentary, metamorphic. Okay, so the name of the rock and its form. All right, so what part of the rocks listed in the table are igneous? So let's see how many rocks we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we said, right? So 10 rocks. And of those 10 rocks, how many are igneous? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5/10 of the rocks are igneous. How do we write 5/10 as a decimal? Okay, so we have no whole numbers. It would have to be all 10 of them would have to be igneous for it to be one whole. So we have 5 out of 10, so it's less than 1. 5 is in the 10th place, so 0.5. Sedimentary rocks make up what part of Ramon's collection? Write your answer as a fraction and in word form. As a fraction and in word form. Okay, so sedimentary. Again, we know we have 10 rocks. Sedimentary, there are 3 that are sedimentary. So that's the fraction, 3/10. In word form, the number 3 written in words is 3. 3 what? 3/10. Number 18. What part of the rocks listed in the table are metamorphic? Write your answer as a fraction and a decimal. All right, so metamorphic, the number of rocks didn't change. We still have 10 in the collection. 2 of them are metamorphic. So that's the fraction, 2/10. So as the decimal, we have no whole number. So we're going to represent that we have no ones, and the 2 is in the 10th place. So 0.2, and we call that 2/10. Number 19, Nikki wrote the following sentence in her report. Metamorphic rocks make up 2 of Ramon's rock collection. Describe her error. Two would mean all the rocks would be metamorphic. He only has 2 out of 10 parts. So that's less than 1. Okay. 2/10 equals 0.2. She put the 2 in the wrong place value. All right, Josh paid for 3 books with 2 $20 bills. He received $1 in change. Each book was the same price. How much did each book cost? So he bought 3 books with 2 $20 bills. So how much did he spend? He had $40. He got $1 back in change. So 2 $20 bills, $1 in change. In change means I'm getting it back. All right, so I also will need to know that he bought 3 books because it says how much did each will cost. So I'll need that for the second step. So 40 take away 1. Well, we know we can't take 1 from 0, but also I'm only taking away 1. So 40 minus 1, I'd be at 39. Okay? 39 divide by 3. Okay, $39 is how much it costs for the books. Okay? How do I know that? Because he had two $20 bills and he got $1 back. So he spent the other $39 out of the $40. He bought 3 books. So this represents our 3 groups. Okay, the 3 books. How much can I share of my $39 for each book? Can I share 3 10s with 3 groups? Yes. That leaves me 0 10s. I still have to share my 9 1s. So 9 1s in 3 groups would be 3. 3 times 3 is 9. That leaves me 0. So we have 13 as a whole number. It wants to know the price in dollars. So I would write $13. Okay. You could also just write 13. It didn't say write it as a decimal. So 21. Select a number shown by the model and mark all that apply. So this is 1 whole, and this is 7 tenths. Now you might want to say, how do I know that it's 7 tenths or so quickly? Well, I only see 3 sections that are white. I know that these are in tenths because 1, that's what we're studying. Okay, and so I know that this shape, from the other problems, it was out of 10 pieces. So if 3 are left unshaded, 10 take away 7 is 3. 10 take away 7 is 3, so 7 tenths. All right, so we have 1 and 7 tenths. That one works. This one, no. 7 tenths. Well, no, that represents the fraction part, but not the whole number. So our whole number is 1 and 7 tenths, which is the same as 1.7. 70 divided by 10 is 7, so nope. 1.7, that's good. 17 over 10. How many parts are here? 10 plus 7 more. So 17 tenths is a possibility. So there are 3 possible answers there. So that's it for writing fractions as decimals to the 10th place. Okay, our next lesson, we'll be working on relating hundredths and decimals. All right, so until then, may the numbers always be in your favor.